Welcome back to Uncaged Sports Talk. We are here on episode 7. I have a very special guest today as we are going to break down the Eagles Week 1 game, preview Thursday Night Football home opener, which I will be at, which is going to be very exciting. Going to be a packed house. Crowd's going to be rocking to hopefully kick off the season at home on a win. Get off to 2-0. Jalen Hurts get to 18-1 in his last 19 starts. Maybe 19-1. I saw a tweet about it earlier today. But without further ado, I want to introduce you all to my guest. He used to work at 94.1 WIP on the morning show. Used to be a host of the 97.5 morning show. Used to work for NBC Sports Philadelphia, and now is a host of his own podcast, The Farzy Show. Please welcome Marc Farzetta.
Oh, thank you very much. You left out, used to be a prominent landscaper in Doylestown. Used to really want to work at Blockbuster Video in the late 90s. That didn't work out. You left out, I was a former altar boy. Let's see what else we got going on. I was an auctioneer. Was an auctioneer for a hot minute. Still do that occasionally if people want to pay me. I'm pretty good at it. Now I just kind of still talk about sports. It's pretty awesome. It's a good gig. You know what I'm saying? Thanks for having me on, man. Good to be with you again.
Thanks for coming on. It's an honor to have you on. I look forward to this
episode. Spoil me.
I've been looking forward to it.
You spoil me, Luke. Thank you.
You're welcome. You want to let the audience know a bit about yourself before we get into some Phillies talk and then some football talk?
Sure. My name is Marc Albert Farzetta. I am originally from Ambler, Pennsylvania. I have been in the sports media business in Philadelphia for about, oh my God, almost 20 years now, which is incredible.
So,
I now host a show.
My whole life.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I host a Philly sports podcast and web show on the old YouTube there, the Farzy Show, prominently displayed. Yep. And I also work for Jacob Media doing Eagles coverage for them. And this year, I get to do Phillies coverage, which is awesome because baseball is my first love. And I honestly, one of my earliest anything sports memories is this pennant I had of the 1980 Philadelphia Phillies with the Philly Fanatic on it. And that's my earliest sports memory. I remember that being above my crib when I was like 3 years old. And it's pretty incredible. Not that I was in a crib at 3. Okay, I was out of the crib by 3, but it was in my bedroom. It was in my bedroom, you judgers. It was still in my bedroom, and I remember that. But and now I host the podcast and web show, The Farzy Show, and I'm a contributor to Fox 29. I worked on Sunday Night Football for NBC for a little over a decade. Got to cover 4 Super Bowls. My last game was the Eagles Super Bowl victory, so there was literally no better way to go out doing that. And I am the proud father of 2. Well, one's an incredible kid. The other we're still waiting. No, kidding. They're both incredible kids. Emmanuel and Leo, my daughter and my son.
Mm-hmm. For the people that don't know, back to the NBC Sports one, me and you were talking about it before. Mark actually has had some interactions with a teacher I had in college in my last semester. Mike Corey, he's an announcer for ESPN. I plan to have him on eventually. Works at NBC too. He announces college basketball. So I plan to have him on eventually. When we get closer to college basketball season, he can talk a bit about college football on that episode.
Yeah,
so
great guy.
His specialty is, he's a really great guy.
Really nice guy. My earliest, I had 2 run-ins with him. The first time I ran into him, I think it was a rugby tournament, and this is 10, 12 years ago. And I just was like, my man's hustling. Like this guy was just trying to uncover, turn over every stone. I think when it came to the rugby tournament, I think it was the college rugby sevens in I think it's Subaru Park now, where the not Subaru Park, is it Subaru Park? Wherever the Philadelphia Union play now.
Yeah, Union in Chester.
And down there in Chester, which has been in the news. It's a great guy. Great guy.
Yeah, he was a go-getter. From the stuff he told us too. He told us some insane stuff about how he got his first job at Delaware and got into the announcing business.
Okay.
He started announcing for Delaware sports for the football, and how he got into that. He just nonstop just kept messaging the people until they basically gave him the job. He was not giving up. He sent him a whole bunch of attention getters. He bought him a pizza. Was this is from Mike Corey. He did a whole bunch of stuff.
No, you got to do that. You got people, anyone watching this that wants to get into the business, you just got to be relentless. Like somewhere along, like everyone had the dream, everyone had the drive, everyone had the dream. Not everybody has the drive. There are people along the way that are like, I really want to do this, and then they kind of do it, and they find out that they don't really want to do it. The best, I heard Seth Rogen say this, but he was quoting a friend of his, and I don't think his friend is famous who said this, but he said, I wanted to be a boxer until I met someone who really wanted to be a boxer. And that's how they knew they weren't ready to be a boxer. So for this, you got to be relentless. You got to keep going. I mean, I've heard stories in my time at NBC. I got to work with the great Bob Costas, and Bob would tell stories about how when he just started out, I think he was working for it wasn't an NHL team. It was some minor league hockey team. And he felt like the bass in his voice wasn't low enough because he was a young guy, and he had the guy turn up the engineer turn up the bass a little bit more to give him a little bit more of a more mature sound. And it's like that's Bob Costas, but you had to start somewhere. So it's up to you where you want to start and how much you want to push for that starting position.
I've noticed too, a lot of people tend to be their own biggest critics. Like I'm my own biggest critic. Yeah. When I go to edit stuff, like I hate listening to myself back. It's just
really?
I don't want to listen to myself back.
Oh, I love myself. I just sit there and I laugh and I laugh and I hate it. It's the worst because when you're watching you're the only person who knows what you were thinking at that time. So you're watching it and you're going, oh wait, I was thinking, why did I say this? Oh wait, hold on a second, I could have done it this way. You're the only person in that vantage point, and you're also the only person at the controls. You're the only person inside your own head and at the controls. That is a recipe for disaster. So I totally get it. It's never the fun part to go back and edit yourself.
When I go through, I kind of cringe when I watch myself, just because I'm my own biggest critic with it in my own head sometimes. But I feel like that's with everyone in the business starting out too, until you get that confidence, which slowly getting that confidence. Learning how to do this podcast, like my first episode was a lot of talking just about solo too, which was the hardest part. When you have a guest, it's a lot easier.
Oh, sure.
But when you're solo, that's a lot harder because you're trying to manage a whole bunch of different stuff. Last week, I did an hour show by myself to preview football, the NFL. My voice was hoarse by the end of it. I was like, oh God, it was insane.
It can be tough. It can be tough. Yeah, but I remember the first show I did with my buddy in college, my buddy Mike Lanza. We were at Temple, and we started doing a sports show together, and it was just 1 hour. And, like, we're both, big sports fans and the whole thing. And it's like we have this great impassioned, argument, and we're talking about the NFL, we're talking about the Phillies, and we're going back and forth, and we're like, we get to the end of it, and it was like, oh, that was 15 minutes. That was like, okay, now you got 45 more minutes to fill. And I was like, all right, let's go to a song. And we played a song, and they were like, what else you got? It was like, I don't know anything. And it was just, it really lets you know. Like, a lot of people think, like, I'm sure any Philadelphia fan, they got the best of them, probably got 20 minutes in them. Probably got 20 minutes. But you tell them, camera on, microphone on, go. You got an hour? Okay, you're going to start talking about your favorite birthday presents sooner or later. Like you're going to get to the mundane stuff that nobody cares about. But you can get to 15, 20 minutes, the best of them, 15, 20 minutes. And it's just like, I think I'm done. Yeah.
Without further ado, they're going to move on to some Phillies talk. I want to know your thoughts on the Phillies and where they're headed. This episode will be coming out on Thursday. So when people are listening, it'll be Thursday, maybe later too.
Okay.
So the Wednesday game will already have happened. The Braves series will be over. What are your thoughts moving forward, though, heading towards the playoffs?
Well, it's just a shame that all the Braves got caught for cheating and they've been thrown out of the league. So the Phillies are going to be awarded the division. I'm so glad that happened. I just want to prepare for everything in case it actually happens. Now, here's where I'm at. Even if the Phillies win that final game, the fourth game of the 4-game series Wednesday night, even if they win that game, but even if they lose, you still have the Cardinals for 3. You have the Mets for 7, and the Mets have pretty much had the Phillies number so far this year, but I know the Mets suck, but they tend to play a little bit better against the Phillies. But you got the Pirates for 3, you got the Cardinals for 3, you got another 3 with the Braves. Here's the thing you can't do. The Phillies cannot play down to their opponent.
Yeah.
If they're able to split against the Braves, then that makes you feel a lot better. But even if they don't, and they go on, and then they play the Cardinals, and they play the Mets for those games, and they play the Pirates, you can't play down to your opponent. Now, last year, here's the big warm hug, Luke. You ready for the big warm hug? Here it is. Yeah. Last year, the Phillies were 4-8. 4-8 to end the season. Okay, 4-8. They won 4 of their last 12 games. Rob Thompson was being asked in the midst of, by the way, a 5-game losing streak in the month of September, going from the 25th to the 29th. During a 5-game losing streak, Rob Thompson was asked, so what's your level of concern at this point? He's like, well, I'm not really concerned. This is a playoff team. We're going to be going to the playoffs, and we feel pretty good about that. And it was like, damn, like Rob, like the unshakable Philly Rob. And then they eked in, and they made that last wild card spot. And the next thing you know, we blacked out. We came to, and they were 2 wins away from winning a World Series. It was absolutely bonkers. So for the people that are hitting the panic button right there, let's just all take a deep breath for a second. And let's realize that this team went through something very similar last year. Now, the pitching is a huge concern. Zach Wheeler, I feel responsible because Zach Wheeler had that start against the Braves where he allowed 6 runs over 5 innings. And I had just pointed out on my show that Zach Wheeler had gone 2 months where he did not have a start less than 6 innings. He had gone at least 6 innings.
Jinx.
Yeah, I did it. I'm sorry. I take full responsibility. I got to do a better job putting my predictions in a better position for us to have success. But anyway, looking at that game with Zach Wheeler, that was a bit unnerving because he had been riding a little bit of a hot streak. Watching Aaron Nola at any point this season has been really unnerving. Your most consistent and good pitcher, your most consistent and good, not great, but good pitcher this year has been, now watch him get shelled at the time we tape this, it's tonight. Watch him get shelled in that 4th game against the Braves. But it's been Christopher Sanchez. He's like 5 innings, 2 hits, 5 innings, 3 runs, 5 innings, 1 run, 5 innings, no runs. That he has been the most consistent pitcher for you so far this season. And that is horrifying when you think about Wheeler, Nola, the fact that Ranger Suarez missed the amount of time but came back and had an incredible June. Michael Lorenzen came in here and had 2 great starts and then has been just straight ass ever since then. So it's very worrisome when you look at this Phillies starting pitching. But you look at the lineup, top 10 in home runs, top 10 in average, top 10 in on-base percentage. Like, they are mashing this year. And
keep up with anyone.
Exactly, yeah. But then you can't have the pitching do it.
Yeah.
Like Zach Wheeler can't go out there and give you 5 innings, 6 runs. And then the bullpen is given no room to stretch even a little bit. And then your lineup has just been absolutely mashing, and they've been getting clutch hits. But when they go in the extra innings, that's where they start to fall by the wayside. I mean, it's just a bad thing. And at the time we taped this, we're talking about 4 different times in the last 3 weeks where the Phillies have gone into extra innings or gotten late inning home runs to tie the game.
Yeah.
And they just can't put the team away.
Yeah, you lose in the 10th each time. Each time you've gotten it, you've lost in a 10th. The one thing I will say to ease you a bit for the pitching, come the playoffs, the one thing that I like with the pitching, you got depth once you move Lorenzen into the bullpen, and especially in a 5-game series. You move Lorenzen and Sanchez to the bullpen. That helps your bullpen. That gives other people in the bullpen more rest, gives you your arms more rest. And then the starters, that's going to be the biggest question mark. But you do have Lorenzen who can come in and be a long relief guy if Nola gets in trouble early. Or Sanchez can come in if Nola gets in trouble early. You even use Ranger early on if, like, game 1 Wheeler gets in trouble. You bring in Ranger because he can withstand maybe an inning or 2 and then start a few days later. So that's my ease with the rotation. I think it'll lighten up when they get to the playoffs. I kind of want to give some of the guys a rest. Just slowly give them rest, but you don't want to lose against these bad teams. You just want to take care of business and get that home wild card series. That's the trick right now.
Oh, I totally agree with you, but my bigger problem is the starting pitching. The starting pitching is going to scare the hell's bells out of me, man. I mean, everybody told me in 2008 that Cole Hamels was going to flip a switch. I'm sorry. Everyone told me in 2009, the year following the Phillies winning the World Series, the first championship I remember as a sports fan in Philadelphia. 2009, he came out and he was terrible. He was
Yeah,
just,
I remember him having a bad year. My grandmother being like, "Yeah, he stinks this year."
Jeez, your grandmother. Can
Yeah,
you make me feel a little less old? Good God!
she was the biggest Phillies fan I know.
Okay, fair enough.
During
Anyway,
the Harper home run in the playoffs, I actually said a prayer to her, which that
very nice.
was right before the Harper hit the home run, and then he hit the home run. I was like, "Please give me one," and then Harper hit the home run. But yeah, she was the biggest Phillies fan I knew. I remember her saying Hamill stinks. I think that year Hamill had a baby that year. I remember him like having like his wife was like pregnant and had a baby.
Either that or I know they adopted some kids. I know that. But
I can
yeah.
double check that real quick.
Say a couple more prayers. Say a couple more prayers to your Nona for me, okay? Because we're gonna need her in this playoff run as well.
Yeah, I remember Cole Hamlin's having a baby. I'm not sure. I can't see the exact date yet, but I'm pretty sure that it was like 2009. Yeah, October 13th, 2009. Cole Hamlin's and Heidi Strobel welcome baby boy.
Oh, they did have
2009
a baby.
that year. He was having a baby, so he was also going through that. Had some dealing with stuff at home, so
Gotcha.
probably attribute it to his season.
Hey, look at Rob Thompson talking about JT Realmuto. He struggles at home because he's got a bunch of kids. He's got a whole gaggle of children. You know what I'm saying? That's why he can't hit at home. That's why he also can't lay down a bunt. Anyway, sorry.
I heard he's hitting 192 at home, which is just insane. 192 is
hold on. I
bad.
did the list last night. This is beautiful. I did the list last night. Let me see if I can pull this up for you real quick because it's amazing. This is a list of Phillies players that are hitting better at home this season. Okay, Phillies players hitting better at home this season than JT Realmuto. All right, this is fun. You want to have some fun? Let me organize it. Here we go. Okay, ready? All right, here you go. JT Realmuto is hitting 192 at home. This is any Philadelphia Philly that has had an at-bat at home this season. He's hitting 192. All right. I'm sorry. These are the only Phillies players that are hitting worse than him at home. I'm sorry. Only Phillies players hitting worse than him at home. Rondolfo Castro, 056. Drew Ellis, 077. Derek Hall, an even 100. And Josh Harrison, 171.
And they've all had probably a combined like 50 at-bats.
Those are four guys. Yeah. Let's see. 17, 14. Yeah, about 45 at-bats. Yeah, 50 at-bats. Yeah. Good
Not
times.
many of them. Yeah, that's bad. He needs to step up. But
those are the only Phillies to grab a bat this year at home and hit worse. For more reference, Dalton Guthrie is hitting better than him. Garrett Stubbs, Cody Clemens is hitting better than him. Yohan Rojas, obviously. Weston Wilson, he's only played in like 3 games, so whatever, and he's got a home run. But yeah, it's pretty horrible. It's pretty horrible, Luke.
Yeah. I'm excited to come the playoffs. I think they can turn it around. I just need to see it. Like, I think it just is going to take getting in and them to see, okay, we can do this again. Like, just that first win in the playoffs, whoever you're going up against in round 1, get that underneath your belt. And you're like, okay, take a deep breath. We can do this again. We can get back to where we want to get to. The Braves series is going to be the test because it's looking like we're going to play the Braves in the second round if we get through round 1.
Yeah, let's get through round 1 with some home games. Here's all I'm asking for, Luke. Yeah. I don't think it's too much. Just start off at home.
Yeah,
that's it.
Start off at home.
That's it.
To gonna pivot to the Eagles for some week 1 fallout. React to week 1. My thing is, I don't want to overreact with the Eagles in week 1. That's like
then get out of Philadelphia. It's nothing but overreactions and piping hot, crappy takes.
It's just a crapshoot week 1. Every team struggles week 1. Bengals put up 3 points for instance. That's not going to happen all year. Again, it's every team has their flaws week 1. No, because teams don't play in preseason anymore. So that's my biggest thing on it. They got to win. That's all I was looking for in that game. I expected a 23-17 type of game. And that was kind of what we got, 23-17 type of game. It was a 5-point game. I predicted a 6-point game. It's basically what we got. It's what I expected. We got to win. Now, this Thursday, I need to see the offense step up when this comes out. I need to see the Eagles step up at home, let up the Vikings defense. When the Vikings defense look shaky against the Baker Mayfield-led Buccaneers. So we should be able to light them up.
Here's my takeaways from week 1. I know there's been talk about the possibility of Jalen Hurts not being up to the challenge of being more involved in the passing game. He threw 33 passes. That's not crazy. That's fine. He can do that on a consistent basis. I'm fine with that. Obviously, the accuracy is something you want to have more. The taking the shots downfield. How many times have we watched quarterbacks over the years with Philadelphia and said, just take a shot downfield? Oh, you want me to throw it where there's double coverage? Yeah, if you could do it somewhat responsibly, and if you have receivers that are going to willing to go up and make a play for you. So they did that. I was fine with it. My bigger issue was of the two new coordinators that you have on the Eagles now, Sean Desai and Brian Johnson. Mm-hmm. If it was like a pass-fail grade, Desai passes, Brian Johnson fails. Yeah, this offense, look, he played Bill Belichick, okay? He played Bill Belichick in the rain for a half, and his guys obviously didn't play, and similar to Sean Desai, his guys didn't play in the preseason. Some of Sean Desai's guys played in the preseason, but nobody for Brian Johnson played in the preseason. Quez Watkins was hurt. Oladebe Zaccheaus was barely out there. So it's a concern. I need to see a little bit more for Brian Johnson in week 2. And my biggest question is 4 days after they played in New England, I want to see how quickly they can turn it around. But that's my bigger question mark going up against the Vikings.
I think the thing with the week 1 game plan, I think it may have been a little conservative because they knew you didn't play anything in the preseason. You only got a 3-day rest before playing the Vikings, which is in the long run, the more important matchup. You want that game more than the Patriots game in the long run, mm-hmm. because it's conference game, a team that could be in the running for positioning in the standings. I think they may have done more of a vanilla game plan, played a little bit more conservative so they didn't overexert themselves after playing nothing in the preseason.
Maybe, yeah.
So they're ready for Thursday night. So they're ready so they can come out and beat the Vikings. Because they did have a conservative game plan.
Oh, certainly. And in the second half, I thought they tried to stretch the field a little bit more. But, yeah, I agree with you, especially you look at the first 15 plays that are allegedly always scripted, you know. I thought they were very conservative. And we actually saw them throw to the backfield. Like, they never throw out of the backfield. They threw out of the backfield to Kenny Gainwell, and it felt like that was a very intentional part of their game plan, keeping plays close to the line of scrimmage, whether running or, again, throwing out of the backfield. Mm-hmm. In this game against the Vikings, though, there's one thing in particular that jumps on. If you want to move on to Vikings mm-hmm. week, there's one thing that really jumps out to me, and I just think Hassan Reddick – I know everyone's talking about Jalen Carter. I think Jalen Carter is going to eat. And their starting center over there in Minnesota is hurt, so Jalen Carter is going to have a great opportunity. Yeah,
even better.
But on top of that, I think it's going to be a great game for Hassan Reddick. And I know that might be the easier bet because he's obviously the more established guy. But if you watch that, Kirk Cousins was hit 9 times last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah. He was hit mostly by their edge rushers. He was hit mostly by linebackers that are lining up as edge rushers. I think it was Addison. I think it was Barrett that got in the backfield there to make some plays. So those are 2 guys right there that I think combined for 5 of the 9 quarterback hits. So those guys got after it. Hassan Reddick, Nolan Smith, I think those guys are going to have big games. I do think Jalen Carter is going to get himself another sack in this game. And
that would be huge.
Biggest, most major takeaway from week 1, I look at it for every single young athlete, rookie, sophomore season, whatever you want to call it. Continue to look like you belong if you're going into your sophomore season. Jordan Davis, I thought, had a great game as well. But
I knew that's where you headed with that.
But Jalen Carter, this is a man. Okay?
Yeah,
this is a man.
Dominated.
This is a guy. I hear people invoke the name of Jerome Brown, which is at the very beginning of my Eagles fandom. If those comparisons from what I've seen of Jerome Brown and what I've seen of Jalen Carter, if I continue to see this kind of play from Jalen Carter, it's not going to be long before everybody is making those comparisons. It was a sight to be seen. He was a man amongst boys playing out there.
If he continues this, he might run away with Defensive Player of the Year. If he does it again week after week after week, even if he doesn't get sacks and just gets the pressures, I think he had for any defensive tackle, he had the fastest time to the quarterback on one of the plays on the next gen stats. Fletcher Cox was second, Milton Williams was third, but Jalen Carter was the first out of every defensive tackle in football for fastest time to get to the QB on a play.
The guy
That's insane for a rookie.
Absolutely gets after it.
Actually, before we pivot, I have one concern for this game coming up. It's the secondary.
Yeah.
Bradbury being out with a concussion. People have been saying Josh Jobe moves to the outside. One thing I would do, though, because Vikings got 2 really good receivers, you have Slay shadow Jefferson, and then have Avante, because he's more experienced than Jobe, just shadow Jordan Addison. He's just more experienced, and then you can put whoever in the slot to cover KJ Osborne and whoever else. It just gives you more experience on the outside. Because Avante has been in the league like 6 years or so at this point, 5 years at this point.
Yeah.
So he does have the experience where he can maybe slide over there.
And I agree. You're absolutely right in saying that. Here's where I'm at with Avonte Maddox in terms of helping the Eagles. I love him at the nickel corner position. Mm-hmm. I like him when he has played safety, and it was rare, but he played safety. And then there's a huge gap, and then down there at the bottom is outside. They tried him out there before. He did not flourish. I think he is set in stone as your nickel corner. I think the experience in this, I think in this case, though, the experience works against him because it's almost like he has gotten set in his ways and he's used to playing nickel corner. A guy like Josh Jobe, not nearly obviously his experience. I mean, we know that.
Yeah,
but
that's my biggest worry with Thursday.
Yeah, look. Don't get beat over the top. That's the only thing you can tell Josh Jobe. Everything's got to happen in front of you. If Kirk Cousins gets rushed into a mistake, capitalize on that mistake. But everything else, it's going to be the big play defense. Don't allow the big play. Don't just the Jonathan Gannon rules are going to be echoed by Sean Desai when it comes to trying to coach up Josh Jobe for this game. And here's what I've learned this week. It is very difficult to say Justin Jefferson, Josh Jobe. It's very difficult to continuously talk about those two names in very close proximity in the paragraph you're trying to describe what the Eagles need to do in this game against the Vikings. But yeah, I would not move Avonte Maddox to the outside. I would have Josh Jobe on the outside simply because he's not used to playing NFL inside corner anyway. So I would let stay there.
I think for one thing for the outside, what I could see potentially, they might do like a rotation on the outside, just depending on the down and distance, depending on where they're out on the field. You do Josh Jobe. Maybe if you need to, you bring in Akili Ringo. You just do a rotation on that outside, depending on the spot, who you like better in certain down and distances and certain positions in the game.
Yeah,
I think that's the likely outcome.
Yeah, the other thing is Reed Blankenship has his rib injury as well. I know he came back in the game after he suffered it against the Patriots, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Sidney Brown can do because I think he's going to get more defensive reps in this game. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the table if he's able to get that opportunity.
Yeah. I've been excited for him. He had a really good preseason. Before we pivot to Luke's list, I'm going to we're on a time crunch, so I'm going to do the top 5 NFL power rankings.
Okay.
And then we're going to get into Luke's locks and Mark's best bets to close up. Okay. I want to let you all know to head over and visit my friend Dan the Man Stanley at Sheridan Nissan, where they will hook you up with a new car. Just let them know Luke Sarenka sent you. Now for Luke's list. You'll see the top 10 on here, but I'm just going to break down the top 5. I'll do the top 10 on TikTok. I'll break down the rest on TikTok. But for the top 5, there's the top 10. Ravens 10, Chargers 9, Jaguars 8, Bills 7, Dolphins 6. I try not to overreact from week 1 for my power rankings. Bengals are 5. They get the benefit of the doubt. A lot of people have told me Dolphins should move up ahead of the Bengals.
Okay.
But Bengals get the benefit of the doubt because I think the 3 points is an anomaly. I think they step up moving forward. I think they get back to what they should be. Burrow just didn't practice much in training camp with his injury. Coming in at number 4, all Philly fans are going to hate this, but it's hard to deny the Cowboys at 4 right now.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
With a 40-0 victory over the Giants when some people had the Giants actually beating the Cowboys. Hard to deny the Cowboys at number 4. Coming in at number 3, the 49ers. Hard to deny this one as well with how they played beating the Steelers. I thought the Steelers actually had a shot to win the game, but it just unraveled quickly. Niners are one team you don't want to fall behind against at all with how they get a lead. They're just going to feast. That's the type of team they are with the play action passes. Niners come in at 3. And then the top two get a benefit of the doubt. The Chiefs get a benefit of the doubt. They did not have Travis Kelce at all.
Yeah, right.
And Chris Jones, those are two major pieces not there. Two of your three best players not there, and you only lose by 1 point. They get a benefit of the doubt there. Lions, I believe I have at 11 on the outside looking in. They moved up because of the win, but the Chiefs still get a benefit of the doubt. And the Eagles, before I get to the Eagles at 1, my trending up, I got the Falcons. They trended up to 5 spots. I like their game against the Panthers. And I like their defense. They got a sneaky good defense and a sneaky good team. They just need to pass the ball to their outside weapons more. Drake London had 0 catches, just like Devontae did last year, just like Dallas Goedert did this year. They just need to pass the ball more to their outside weapons, but they got a sneaky good team there in that division. The Bucks moved up 5 spots against the Minnesota Vikings in my power rankings. They went from 28 to 23. Baker Mayfield looked okay in that game. Not great, nothing special, but they still got weapons on the outside. They still got a solid team with Rashad White, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. So they move up 5 spots. And then the Titans, they moved down 6 spots strictly because of Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill looked bad in that game. 3 interceptions. They're headed in. With him at quarterback, they might struggle for a bit. They might have to go to QB change sooner rather than later with either Malik Willis or Will Levis. Then number 1, pretty obvious.
No way.
The Philadelphia Eagles. Like I said, I don't overreact from week 1. Week 1's a crapshoot. I expect them to get stuff right throughout the end of the year. They still got overall the best roster in football. They got the best QB in the NFC. You got a top 5 O-line, top 3 receiving core, top 15 running back room, saying that not so people don't call me biased. Top 10 D-line, maybe top 5 D-line, top 5 secondary. Only problem is the linebackers, really. The linebackers are the only problem with the team, but every team has at least one weakness. And if you're going to have a weakness, I'd rather those 2 weaknesses be at linebacker and running back. Linebacker's the least valuable position now in today's NFL on defense, and running back's the least valuable position on offense in today's NFL. Before moving on to Luke's locks and Mark's best bets, I want to know your thoughts on some of these rankings.
I think most of this is appropriate. I'd probably flip the Bengals and the Dolphins just out of credit for week 1. Cowboys, I think, are in the right place. They did play. They played a craptastic Giants team, so I think you're in the right place there. But yeah, giving them credit for a 40-0 victory is credit for a 40-0 victory. The Bills are a fascinating team to me this year.
Yeah,
because for me, the Bills are that what's the phrase? Poop or get off the pot type of season for them. It's like every year Josh Allen works his way into an MVP. Yeah, MVP conversation. And it's like, oh, this is great. And like, if you're a Bills fan, think about this for a second. In the last 5 years, not even the last 3 years, you've checked boxes that you just haven't seen before. Like the Bills in their history have only had one other time where they've had, I think, 4 double-digit win seasons in a row. That was, of course, the Jim Kelly era. They hadn't won a playoff game in 25 years. They're at a point right now where they just keep checking boxes except for the big box, which is either getting or winning a Super Bowl. And Josh Allen has gotten them close, and Sean McDermott's done a great job with their defense, and as a head coach, he's done a great job, but they just can't win the big game. So now is a moment this year for the Bills. And I know they have the Raiders coming up, and I do think they win that, and we'll get to that in a second. But now is the moment in their home opener where they gotta do the announce their presence with authority thing, and they got to make sure they come out swinging. Because the Bills have a very good football team, and they're coached very well. I know they're not the same without Brian Dable taking over the Giants. He was a great offensive coordinator with them, especially when you talk about a guy who's a defensive-minded head coach in Sean McDermott, which we know all too well here in Philadelphia, and they know down there in Carolina as well. But for me, I think the Bills are going to end up climbing this list significantly. The Jags are a team to watch out for as well. The Chargers and the Ravens. The Ravens, not a big fan. The Chargers, to me, I think Justin Herbert, I don't know what it is, man. I'm not saying he sucks by any means, but I think people just fall in love. People just fall in love with the long locks, man. They just fall in love. Like, they want to run their hair through his locks.
Yeah.
I'm like, can the guy play the quarterback position at a winning level? All right. He's
got all the talent, but can't put it together.
I'm not president of the Justin Herbert fan club. I never got it. I'm not saying he sucks. Yeah. This isn't a speech about how Justin Herbert sucks. He doesn't suck. But it's just like, I don't get the love. Like, are you guys trying intentionally to seem smarter that there's no West Coast bias or East Coast bias? I don't know. But the Jags, I think, will climb this list. I think the Dolphins will climb this list. I think the Chargers and the Ravens will drop off this list.
My biggest thing with the Bills on this one, Brian Dable left Josh Allen, and then Josh Allen throws the most amount of picks in the NFL last year. Yeah. And then he goes out week 1, throws 3 interceptions. That gives some cause for concern to me with Josh Allen. Was it more of Brian Dable? Because Daniel Jones took a step up last year with Dable. Josh Allen took a minor step back. It's kind of concerning. And I heard this week on Philly radio too. Josh Allen is almost Wentz without the injuries. That's what he's kind of turned into. He's become a better version of Wentz before the injury. What Wentz would probably be now.
Yeah, if Wentz never gets hurt, I guess, yeah. But it's like Wentz suffered from so many other things other than getting hurt. Ego was a big part of it, and I don't think Josh Allen. Like, when I try to step inside a player's head, like, that's dangerous territory. But I look at Carson Wentz, and I think anything, and I'm not even talking about a concussion, but like the way he thinks, I think that was the biggest hit to his career. Because plenty of guys have gotten hurt and they've come back and they've done good things.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz came back and just did nothing. So
he let it rattle him. He got rattled.
Like, literally, he's available.
Things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second pick in the draft. 3 different franchises, soon to be 4. It's crazy.
Possibly the Jets. I'd honestly like to see that, but see what he can do with it. One last.
I saw the odds. Odds were better for Nick Foles to sign with the Jets than Carson Wentz.
If I'm the Jets, I'd probably rather Wentz just take that shot. But if you do Wentz, the problem with that is you maybe create a distraction, especially if you want to give Zach Wilson one more shot. It sucks for Rodgers, but it could be potentially fate is a word I'd like to use for it, that Zach Wilson's getting one last shot. I want to see what he can do. I got them at 15th in my rankings. If he needs one good week and they jump into the top 10. He's their only question mark, especially after that win against the Bills. My question mark, though, with Josh Allen, can he get back to the level he was at 2 years ago when he had Brian Dable? That's my biggest question mark with him.
Yeah,
Ravens dropped on this list.
Fair. Very fair question.
Because the injuries they had. I like their overall roster, but those injuries are concerning there in Baltimore. You have Marcus Williams.
Luke,
some injuries.
I have some breaking news. Now this isn't going to be
Twitter updates.
This isn't going to be breaking as of the time this airs, but out for the Philadelphia Eagles: Reed Blankenship, James Bradbury, and Kenny Gainwell. They are
so Swift
out.
And Penny will be active. Get to see Swift and Penny. That sucks for Gainwell. I expected Bradbury out, and Reed, you get Sidney Brown to get his first game action.
Yeah. I haven't heard a lot about I haven't heard a lot of good things about Rashad Penny. And if you're inactive, that's always obviously
that was shocking to me.
Yeah, I was surprised. Regardless, wow, he must really suck. Like, that was my thought. And I texted a couple people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he can't play." I'm like, "What? What is he hurt?" And they're like, "No, he can't play. He's not very good." And I'm like, "What the hell?" So he's going to get an opportunity. Just
bring up Trey Sermon.
He's going to get an opportunity. Point. I know. No, I am so not. I've never been on the Trey Sermon. They did plenty of sermons about Trey Sermon and how talented he is, and I just don't see it. But if he's better than if Trey Sermon, if Rashad Penny is better than Trey Sermon, I want to see it on display against the Vikings.
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot of Swift, and then Penny will get those third downs. Hopefully he can prove the doubters wrong. We're going to move on to some locks and best bets of the week as we wrap up.
Yeah.
Coming for my Luke's locks this week, I got the Cowboys -8.5 against the Jets. Zach Wilson's not going to be able to keep up with that Cowboys team. The Cowboys D-line is going to get to Zach Wilson all day long. Zach Wilson was pressured all day long against the Bills, and the Cowboys got a better D-line than the Bills do. The Cowboys should win that game by more than 8.5 against the Jets, and especially at home. The Dolphins minus 2.5 against the team we just played, the Patriots. Dolphins should be able to win that game by 3 or more. Should win by 10 or more, honestly, with their offense. But they should be able to win that game. I think that's a lock. I think that game's easy to pick. Niners minus 7.5 against the Rams. It scares me that it's a division matchup, but Niners are just clearly a much better team than the Rams. The Niners should be able to win that game fairly easily there against the Rams. Chargers minus 3.5 against the Titans. They should be able to win that game. Ryan Tannehill just looked bad. Ryan Tannehill, if he turns the ball over, gives the Chargers offense the ball. Should be an easy win for the Chargers. The Chargers should be able to come out with that. Concern with Eckler there not being there this week, potentially. But it should still be a win, even if Eckler's not there, with Joshua Kelly in the backfield and the weapons they got, the plethora of weapons they got. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnson. And
by
then
the way,
Packers.
Real quick, the Chargers also just signed Jarrett Patterson as a running back with Eckler still missing that ankle injury.
Yeah, they got him. I think they had him on their practice squad. If I'm not,
they may have just elevated him.
Yeah, and then the Packers, I got minus 1.5 against the Falcons. I think the Packers should be able to win that. I like their showing they had week 1. They got weapons. Hopefully Watson's back for them, which that should solidify that pick. But 1.5, I think, is a good line for that game. And I think the Packers win outright, so I would take the Packers in that game. Now for Mark's best, or before we move on to Mark's best bets, I want to know your thoughts on those. If there's any you disagree with.
No, I think you're spot on. We actually have at least one that we agree on.
Yeah. One.
Yeah. I'm sorry, one that we're totally on the same page. I agree with you on all your picks. The only thing with the Cowboys, though, it's that 40-0, and then what happens next week?
That's what I was.
Yeah.
I went back to look at previous history from when the Cowboys have huge wins like that. I thought I would find a lot more of like clunkers laid the next week, because it just feels like every time they have a big game, they just lay a clunker the following week. It's almost like the Phillies. Anytime their offense explodes, they just lay a clunker the next night. It just feels like. I feel like that's the Cowboys. But when I went back and looked at it, there was more times than not that it was not a clunker the next game. It just
this is also their home opener. This is also their home opener. So, but it does catch my eyebrow, does raise my eyebrows. Catches my attention. At minus 8.5 at home. It's probably appropriate. That's probably a 10-win game for them, or 10-win game for them. But yeah, as far as my picks go, let's
Mark's best bets.
Oh yeah, my best bets, baby. Here we go. I like the Bills at 8.5. Them to cover over the Raiders. I think the Raiders are a joke. The Bengals minus 3.5. They're absolutely going to bounce back from last week. I think Joe Burrow needed a game under his belt. We've been saying something similar, although not because of injury. We've been saying something similar about Jalen Hurts here in Philadelphia. I think it's going to be a similar type thing here for the Bengals. Coming up this week against the Ravens. And again, I don't have a lot of respect for the Ravens to begin with. Then after that, I'm looking at the Packers. Minus 1.5. I think this was an easy one. I'm not buying into the Falcons. But I look at the Packers as a team that's going to be able to handle the business coming up here against the Falcons. The Texans. This is basically a pick-'em game. Some lines are some spreads are at 1, other spreads are at 1.5, like you have right here. I'm going to say the Texans are going to win that game at home against the Indianapolis Colts. It's going to be rough for the Colts. And Shane
good last week too.
They did, and what is it? Gannon and Steichen both came up short in their openers, but I'd like to see what the Texans do here, and I think this is going to be a good win for the Texans. So I'm going to take the Texans in that one, and then the Eagles. This line's probably going to change. Now you have it at 7.5.
Down to like 6 now. Yeah,
I've seen it at 6. We'll see what happens now that they have their starting safety, their starting corner.
By tomorrow.
And their number 1 running back out. So by tomorrow, it could be at like 4.5.
Yeah, by the time this comes out, I'd expect 4.5, and I'd smash the Eagles all day on that.
Yeah, I still think the Eagles win.
We win by a touchdown. Or more, maybe 7 to 10 point game.
And then if you're looking for a prop, Dallas Goedert getting a touchdown.
Yeah, I think he's due for a bounce back game after having 0 catches. What would your score prediction be? I always like to ask the Eagles fans score prediction for the Eagles Eagles games. Eagles Vikings tonight as this podcast comes out on Thursday. So Eagles Vikings score prediction.
As of Wednesday night, at the time that we tape this interview, I'm going to say the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Minnesota Vikings 31-24. It's not going to be cozy. It's going to get a little close and uncomfortable in the fourth quarter. And I think that the Vikings are going to come out and get a little bit of scare early. Then the Eagles are going to take over midway through, kind of like they did last year. But then the Eagles calm the storm. They build a big enough lead where a late touchdown doesn't kill them, and they win this game 31-24.
I actually really like that score prediction.
I
might have actually done that one, but I'm gonna change just so it's not similar, so it's not the same one.
Oh, okay,
just so
good.
It's original.
Okay,
gonna do 27-21. I trust our defense enough, and our offense steps up compared to last week.
Okay.
You have some bright spots. You have some deep plays down the field. Take advantage of a weaker Viking secondary. You should still be able to beat this Vikings team, even with the injuries in the secondary.
Look, it's
overall
your
better
show.
Team.
It's your show. I'll change my pick. 50-0. 50-0. Eagles.
I actually got a better score for you.
Okay.
38-7. Eagles fans will get a call back.
Very nice. Nick Foles comes in, throws a touchdown pass to Torrey Smith. Absolutely. Definitely.
Do a flea flicker to Dallas Goedert for your touchdown.
There you go. Nothing to it.
Dallas Goedert flea flicker for your touchdown to ice the game. Eagles 38-7.
Wonderful.
In all honesty, I think like the 27-21, 31-24 type of game, 7-point, 6-point game, Eagles should be able to win the game. That'll do it for this episode. I appreciate you for coming on. It was an honor to have you on, privilege to have you on. If I can in the future, I'd love to come on your podcast if I can.
God, no.
And potentially have you on this as well.
Oh, do your show again too? Oh my God, don't push your luck. No, I'm kidding. No, absolutely, Luke. Thanks for having me on. We'll definitely get you on the Farzy show, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be an honor to come on that and get my name out there as well more. It was an honor to have you on this week. It was very fun. Hope to have you on in a future episode. Maybe when I get Mike Corey on, after I have him on for the first time, maybe have you on, both of you on for an episode.
Love to say hi. We have a very good mutual friend, Laura Cronin, who's now a bigwig at NBC as a production manager. I think she's manning the Thursday Night Football along with a great guy named Tim DeKime. So they're in town. So we taped this Wednesday night. I'm supposed to go out and meet up with some of my old friends from the Sunday night crew that now do the Thursday night games.
Oh, wow.
So they're in town. So I'm looking forward to catching up with some old friends.
Yeah, that should be fun.
The last time I saw him, I was on the field. The last time I saw him, I was on the field in Minnesota after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. That was probably insane.
It was. It
was pretty cool, man.
I was at the Super Bowl this year. It was just surreal just being there, despite the loss.
Sure.
I still cherish just even being in the stadium. Actually, before we end the show today, I want to know your thoughts, and I might actually text you behind the scenes on this. I'm going to write a letter to the NFL starting like now. I'm going to start writing the letter and figure out how to try to get a Super Bowl media pass for Radio Row. I only do this podcast once a week, but I might try to do it for an entire week, live once a week, or live every day for the week leading up to the Super Bowl. Even if the Eagles aren't in it in Vegas, I want to try to see if I can get a media pass. They had 6,000 media members last year.
Go for it.
I might need some help on like who to contact. You might, if you know any contacts potentially who could.
I might be able to reach out to somebody.
To that.
Yeah, usually people. I not to sound like an ass, but people have done that for me. I've never done it, so I'd have to talk to those people. I could probably point you in the right direction.
Yeah, I'm gonna be writing a letter and make it strongly worded. Say it could help with my career path, help with the podcast, help me grow it, and I could meet some potential people. Some people, if they do give me a pass to go sit at Radio Row and do my podcast every day, and then get to watch the Super Bowl and cover the Super Bowl.
Awesome.
Get to be in the stadium. The only problem for me would be paying me to get out there. I would make it work one way or another.
Ride your bike.
They go to
It's not
the
that.
Super Bowl for free, basically.
There you go.
That would be an honor to do that. But It was
Awesome.
an honor having you on. I look forward to having you on again in the future.
Thanks,
That'll
brother.
do it for this episode of Uncaged Sports Talk. Tune in next week, and remember to like, follow, and subscribe on all of our platforms, and comment on all of our videos, and tune in next week. We will have another NFL episode. I plan to have my step cousin on, hopefully, if he's willing to come on. I go to the Eagles games with him. Me and him he's a season ticket holder as well. So hopefully I can have him on next week. That's my guest I plan to have
Your
on.
step cousin is Bradley Cooper. No.
He actually plays for Wilmington Friends. They were actually shown on a broadcast last year for
cool.
For Eagles Giants game when the Eagles played on the road. They were shown on the broadcast because one of his coaches works for Fox. And they won the state championship last year. He's a starting tackle, I believe, for Wilmington Friends High School in Delaware. And they won a state championship. But hopefully I can have him on next week, maybe talk a little bit about that and get into some Eagles talk as well next week. Talking about the 2-0 Eagles heading to Tampa for Monday Night Football.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks for coming on again. Tune in next week, everyone.